Hi, my name is Karen, and I'm an American lay student of Ajahn Suchat, or Pra Ajahn Suchat Abhijato, who has given me the very special honor of being asked by him to record this book for you. This book was written by Pra Ajahn Suchat's own teacher, the Venerable Acariya Mun Nanasampanno, and is a spiritual biography written by him about his teacher, the Venerable Acariya Mun Biography. The title of the book is Venerable Acariya Mun Biography, a spiritual biography by Acariya Mun Nanasampanno, and it was published in 2005, translated into English by Bhikkhu Dick Silaratano. If you would like to learn how to download or get a hard copy of this book, or a list of which pages or chapters are read on each separate recording, please listen to the beginning of the first recording of this book. This book, in any form, is to be given away for free. Any ads you may see or hear in this recording have been put there by the platform you are using to listen or view with, for its own revenue, in exchange for letting us use their platform for free. Please forgive me for any mispronunciations of names, places, or words, as I'm still learning how to pronounce Thai and Pali, and for any background noises, as I'm just making these recordings in my apartment with an unruly dog and in the middle of a city. We're continuing today on page 109. We are in the second chapter, and we are continuing the section Graduated Teaching. Meditation is actually a way to counteract and alleviate all the mental irritations and difficulties that have plagued us for so long. Meditation is not unlike other methods used in the world to relieve pain and discomfort, like bathing when we feel hot, and putting on warm clothes, or lighting a fire when we feel cold. When hungry, we eat and drink. When ill, we take medicine to relieve the symptoms. All these are methods that the world has used to relieve pain and discomfort over the ages, without anyone ever dismissing them as being too burdensome or too difficult to do. People of every ethnic and social group are obliged to look after themselves in this way. Even animals have to take care of themselves by searching for food to alleviate their discomfort and survive from day to day. Similarly, mental development through meditation is a very important means of taking care of ourselves. It is work that we should be especially interested in because it deals directly with the mind, which is the central coordinator for all our actions. The mind is in the front line when it comes to anything related to ourselves. In other words, the citta is absolutely essential in everything. It has no choice but to accept the burden of responsibility in all circumstances without discrimination or hesitation. Whatever happens, the mind feels compelled to step in and immediately take charge, unfazed by ideas of good and bad or right or wrong. Although some situations are so depressing they're nearly unbearable, the mind still boldly rushes in to shoulder the burden, heedless of the risks and its own inherent limitations. More than that, it recites its litany of thoughts over and over again until eating and sleeping become almost impossible at times. Still, the mind charges ahead, refusing to admit failure. When engaging in physical activity, we know our relative strengths and when the time is right to take a rest. But our mental activities never take a break, except briefly when we fall asleep. Even then, the mind insists on remaining active, subconsciously churning out countless dream images that continue overloading its capacity to cope. So the mind lives with a sense of intolerable dissatisfaction, never realizing that this dissatisfaction arises in direct relationship to its heavy workload and the unbearable mental aggravation it generates. Because it is always embattled, the mind could well be called a warrior. It struggles with what is good, and it struggles with what is bad. Never pausing to reflect, it engages everything that comes along. Whatever preoccupations arise, it insists on confronting them all without exception, unwilling to let anything pass unchallenged. So it's appropriate to call the mind a warrior, since it recklessly confronts everything that comes across its path. If the mind does not come to terms with this dilemma while the body is still alive, it will keep on fighting these battles indefinitely, unable to extricate itself. Should the heart's endless desires be indulged in without Dhamma to act as a moderating influence, real happiness will always be out of reach, regardless of how abundant material wealth may be. Material wealth itself is not a true source of happiness, and can readily become a source of discontent for the heart lacking inner Dhamma to serve as an oasis of rest. The wise have assured us that Dhamma is the power which oversees both material wealth and spiritual well-being. Regardless of how much or how little wealth we acquire, we will enjoy a sufficient measure of happiness if we possess some measure of Dhamma in our hearts. Unsupported by Dhamma and left to its own desires, the heart will be incapable of finding genuine happiness, even with a mountain of valuable possessions on hand. These are merely physical and emotional supports that intelligent people can use wisely for their own pleasure. If the heart is not intelligent in the way of Dhamma, or Dhamma is absent altogether, the place where we live will resemble a wasteland, no matter what our choice. The heart and all its wealth will then end up as just so much accumulated waste, stuff that is useless for our spiritual development. When it comes to being stoic in the face of adversity, nothing is as tough and resilient as the heart. Receiving proper assistance, it becomes something marvelous, in which we can take pride and satisfaction under all circumstances. From the time of birth to the present moment, we have exploited our hearts and minds mercilessly. Were we to treat a car like we treat our minds, it would be pointless to take to a garage for repairs, for it would have become a pile of scrap metal long ago. Everything that we utilize must receive some sort of upkeep and repair to ensure that it continues providing useful service. The mind is no exception. It's an extremely important resource that should be well looked after and maintained, just as we do with all our other possessions. Meditation is a therapy designed exclusively for the mind. All of us who are truly interested in taking responsibility for our minds, which after all are our most priceless possessions, should care for them in the correct and proper way. This means training our minds with suitable meditation techniques. To use the car comparison, it means examining the mind's various component parts to see if anything is defective or damaged, and then taking it into the garage for a spiritual overhaul. This entails sitting in meditation, examining the mental components or sankharas that make up our thoughts, then determining whether the thoughts that surface are fundamentally good or harmful, adding fuel to the fire of pain and suffering. Thus, an investigation is undertaken to ascertain which thoughts have value and which are flawed. Then we should turn our attention to the physical components, that is, our bodies. Do our bodies keep improving with age, or are they deteriorating as time goes by? The old year inevitably turning into a new one over and over again? Does the body continue regenerating, Or does it inevitably wear down and grow older with each successive day? Should we be complacent about this by failing to mentally prepare ourselves while there's still time? Once we are dead, it will be too late to act. This is what meditation is all about: cautioning and instructing ourselves by examining our shortcomings to determine what areas need improvement. When we investigate constantly in this manner, either while sitting in meditation or while going about our daily tasks, the mind will remain calm and unperturbed. We will learn not to be arrogantly overconfident about life and thus avoid fueling the flames of discontent. And we will know how to exercise proper moderation in our thoughts and deeds so that we don't forget ourselves and get caught up in things which may have disastrous consequences. The benefits of meditation are too numerous to address, so Acariya Mun kept his explanations to the lay audience at a level appropriate to their practice. His explanations to monks and novices were of a very different caliber. I have written down just enough here to give the flavor of his teaching. Some people may find that I've included certain things that seem excessive or even distasteful, but the account would be incomplete if I did not convey all aspects of his teaching. I have made the effort to compile these teachings in the hope that the readers will encourage me with the benefit of their criticism. So you are welcome to criticize me for whatever you find to be inappropriate. But please do not blame Acariya Mun, because he had no part in writing the book. Acariya Mun conducted higher Dhamma teaching only within the circle of his close disciples, but the author has somewhat of an irrepressible nature and cannot sit still. So I have gone around collecting oral accounts from all the Acharyas today who lived with Acariya Mun in the past and are his disciples. I've recorded this information so that the reader may know something of his practice, even though it is not a complete account. Acariya Mun's mode of practice was so uniquely resolute and uncompromising that one could surely say that none of his disciples can match him in the austerities he performed, the noble virtues he perfected, and the inner knowledge he so skillfully mastered. To this day, he remains unexcelled. Acariya Mun said that when he stayed in the forests and mountains of Udon, Thani, and Nang Khai, devas from the upper and lower realms occasionally came to hear Dhamma from him. Some groups came regularly every 2 weeks, others only once a month. Devas from that area did not come to see him nearly as often as those from Chiang Mai province. I shall relate those experiences in due course, but for now, let me continue following the sequence of events so as not to confuse matters. Acariya Mun spoke of a huge city of Nagas located under the mountain west of the Laotian city of Luang Prabang. While he lived there, the chief of those Nagas regularly brought his followers to hear Dhamma, occasionally in large numbers. The Nagas tended to ask far fewer questions of him than the devas of the upper and lower realms, who always had many questions for him. All these groups, however, listened to what he had to say with equal respect. During the time Acariya Mun lived at the base of that mountain, the chief Naga came almost every night to visit him. Only on special occasions did he bring a large following, and in that case, Acariya Mun always knew of their arrival in advance. Due to the remote location, he had little contact with people at that time, so he was able to be of particular service to the Nagas and Devas. The Nagas did not visit very late at night. They came at maybe 10 or 11 p.m., which was probably due to his remote location. As a sign of their profound respect, the Nagas invited Acariya Mun to remain living there out of compassion for them. They even arranged to protect him both day and night, taking turns to keep watch. They never came too close, maintaining a convenient distance always, yet close enough to observe anything that might happen. The Devas, on the other hand, usually came later than the Nagas, at about 1 or 2 a.m. If he was living in the mountains, far from a village, the Devas sometimes came earlier, say 10 or 11 p.m. There was never a sure time, but normally the Devas came after midnight. During middle age, Acariya Mun's normal daily routine was as follows. After the meal, he walked meditation until noon, and then took a short rest. Rested, he sat in meditation for an hour and a half before continuing his walking meditation until 4 p.m. After that, he swept the area around his dwelling, bathed, and again practiced walking meditation until about 7 or 8 p.m., when he entered his hut to sit again. If it did not rain after seated meditation, he walked again until late at night, or if it was already very late, he retired for the night. He normally retired at 11 p.m. and awoke at 3 a.m. Acariya Mun usually knew in advance when the Devas would visit. If they were going to arrive later than midnight, he rested before receiving them. If they were expected to arrive between 11 p.m. and midnight, he first entered into samadhi and waited there for them. This is the daily routine that he maintained throughout that period of his life. When both heavenly and terrestrial devas wished to come on the same night, Acariya Mun would receive the first group, give them a Dhamma talk, answer their questions, and then tell them that another group was soon coming. The first group then left in a timely manner, and the other devas entered from where they'd been respectfully waiting at a distance. He then began speaking to the second group, discoursing on a Dhamma theme he seemed suitable for their temperament and level of understanding. Sometimes the chief of the Deva group requested a certain topic. Acariya Mun then focused his attention on that specific Dhamma theme. When he felt his heart in possession of this knowledge, he began his discourse. Sometimes the Deva leader requested a discourse on a sutta, using an archaic title with which Acariya Mun was unfamiliar. So Acariya Mun asked and was told the present-day title. Usually, Acariya Mun could figure out for himself the suttas that were being requested, but occasionally he had to ask for clarification. At other times, the Devas requested a sutta by a title of which he felt certain. But as soon as he began to elucidate it, they informed him that he had made a mistake, and that it was not the one they requested. To refresh his memory, they recited some verses from the sutta. After 1 or 2 verses, he could usually remember it correctly. He began his discourse only when he was sure he had the right topic. On rare occasions, the Devas from the upper and lower realms all came to listen to Dhamma at the same time as the Nagas. This is not unlike various groups of humans all showing up to visit a teacher simultaneously. When this happened often, he scheduled their arrivals at different times for the convenience of all concerned. According to Acariya Mun, even though he lived deep in the forests and mountains, he did not have much free time because he had to deal with so many groups of devas from different realms of existence. If on a particular night no devas from the celestial realms came to see him, then there were bound to be terrestrial devas from one location or another, so he had little free time at night. Fortunately, there were few human visitors in those remote places. If he stayed near a village or a town, however, then human inhabitants from the area came to see him. He received these people in the afternoon or early evening, teaching the monks and novices afterwards. And we're going to end there today. At the bottom of page 114, we have just finished the section titled Graduated Teaching. We are still in chapter 2. And in the next recording, we will begin the next section titled The Difference is in the Heart at the bottom of page 114. Until then, with metta, bye-bye.